Shalom Aleichem and welcome to Online Smicha. Just imagine someone privately, quietly, tells you a tip, a stock tip that you're guaranteed to become wealthy on just this one investment. Aren't you going to do whatever you could do, whatever is in your capabilities to invest as much as you can so you should be able to live b'menucha or v'shalva? So imagine I tell you now that there is not only a segula, but there's something that Chazal tell you that if you do so and so, you are going to have parnasa. Aren't we going to be careful and do it in such a way that you should live, you should be zoicha to live b'menucha v'shalva? The Yerushalmi says, the Yerushalmi in Masechta Brachas says, anybody kol ha'omer parshas haman, anybody who says the parsha in the Torah where it discusses that Hashem gave us the man, muftach loy shelo yismatu mizaynosav. He is guaranteed. Now this is different. It's not a segula, a merit if you'll be a good boy. These words are very potent. Muftach loy, he is guaranteed. Shelo yismatu mizaynosav. He won't have a lack of parnasa. His mezainis, his sustenance for his family, he'll have what he needs. And that's how? By saying parshas haman. It's interesting, because in Shulchan Aruch, the Alter Rebbe does bring it in Madura Kama and in Madura Basra. In Madura Basra, the Alter Rebbe in Siman Aleph, Seif Tes, lists off all the things that are customary to be said as attached to davening, as an attachment to davening, really has nothing to do to davening. It doesn't say in the Yerushalmi that necessarily you should say it as part of davening. But the Alter Rebbe lists off other tefillos, bakashas that should be said. So in Siman Aleph, Seif Tes, the Alter Rebbe says, Toiv loymar b'chol yoim parshas ha'akeda. It's a good thing that you say every day the nisayin of the Akedah. And the Alter Rebbe's reasoning for that is Lizkar zechus avos, to arouse the zechusim of our ancestors of Avram, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov. And the Alter Rebbe goes on to say, uparshas haman. It is also a good thing to mention, read or say the parsha of the man. Why? The Alter Rebbe does not say it as it's mentioned in Shulchan Aruch, as it's mentioned in the Yerushalmi. By saying so, you are guaranteed as a parnasa. The Alter Rebbe says, "Liv toyach b'Hashem." By that, you will create a bitachon, in Hashem, that the Eibishter will be noising lechem dvar yoim b'yoimai. As we know that by the man, every day's parnasa, every day's food supply came daily from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So a person should not think that it's koichi v'aitzim yadi, it's his intellect, his knowledge of business that does this. It's the Eibishter that supports you, and the Eibishter will support you. The Eibishter will give you dvar yoim b'yoimai. It's amazing what Chazal tell us, specifically that generation, the der of the Midbar. The Torah was given specifically to the generation that ate the man, because the generation that ate the man had the straight and sincere bitachon in HaKadosh Baruch Hu that every day Hashem will give them what they need. So in the Madura Basra, the Alter Rebbe says the reason is so you have a bitachon in Hashem that it will be good. The Eibishter will give you what you need. In Madura Kama, the Alter Rebbe in Siman Aleph Seif Yud also lists off the things that we attach to davening. And over there, the Alter Rebbe says not bitachon in HaKadosh Baruch Hu that he'll give lechem dvar yom b'yom, but he says kidei sheyamin, so a person should have faith. Shekol mizaynosav ba'iloi b'hashgacha, that a person has to know that it's not you that's making the parnasa. Hashem, divine providence, is giving you the parnasa. Shekain haya b'man, as it was in the man, that the Eibishter was mashgiach to give everybody as much as they need for their family. In Lekutei Sichos Chelik Chavav, the Sicha of Parshas Beshalach, the second Sicha, the Rebbe goes on to explain in detail the differences between the reason the Alter Rebbe gives in Madura Kama, Madura Basra, and the Nafkamino Lahalachas may it be even said even on Shabbos, because we know as a personal request we take out the parts of Shemoneh Esrei that are asking for personal requests on Shabbos. If this is a request for Parnasa, that shouldn't be said on Shabbos. Yet those who say the parshas haman say it even are allowed to say it even in Shabbos. And there's a phenomenal sicha explaining the differences between Amunah and Bitachon and how the Parnasa comes to us. There is a letter in Igros Kodesh Chelik Yud Beis Amud Yud Ches, where somebody asks the Rebbe, why is it Minik Chabad to say the 13 Ani Mamins? Or in many other Sidurim, there are so many other things that people add to the davening. Now, as I mentioned, in Shulchan Aruch, the Alter Rebbe says you should say Parshas Haman, Aseres Adibros, Akedas, the Akedah. And yet we see that only the Akedah is part of the Siddur, and the Alter Rebbe did not put Parshas Haman or the Aseres Adibros or some of the other things he's mentioned in the Shulchan Aruch. So, when the Rebbe responds to the Yud Gimel Ikrim, to the Ani Maimins, the Rebbe says, first of all, you have to know that davening is very precise, very exact. You're never allowed to attach things to davening. Davening is exact, and that's how it should be said. Now, if you want to say something or say a prayer whenever, fine. But as part of the text of davening, is very difficult. Even if you're saying it once davening is over, you have to be very careful what to attach to davening. And the Rebbe brings a raya from the Arizal. The Arizal was very makpid that not to mention any pismin unless it had a source, Chibroi HaRishonim, unless from the earlier Rishonim that they were the author of that pismin. But just any prayer, we try not to connect to davening. At the end, the Rebbe says, V'hina iloi ne'ela mimeni, after all I said, I don't push away. I do know. Hamuvo b'sefer Mishmeres Sholem, which is brought in the Sefer Mishmeres Sholem in the name of Pinchas Mikaretz, that Asher Sgula leParnasa loymar b'chol yom Parshas Haman. There are some people that say, in the name of Pinchas Mikaretz, that it's a special merit. Now, why do you need a special merit? It says in Yerushalmi, Muftach Lo Yismaitum Ezenosav. But in the name of Pinchas Mikaretz, it's brought that somebody who says Parshas Haman every day and says Yud Gimel Ikrim Bahashkama, it's a special school of the Parnasa. Says the Rebbe, Upashut, it's obvious that the skulos, these merit, the things that arouse merit, that are said in the specific times and specific days, that has nothing to do necessarily to davening. And not always do we find that these merits apply. So, it's interesting that the Rebbe brings in the name of Pinchas Mikaretz. It's traditionally brought that it's in the name of Rav Mendel Merimenov. That Rav Mendel Merimenov, for 22 years, as he was leading his community, as he was leading his Hasidim, for every Shabbos, as he gave a Dvar Torah, it was always about Parshas Haman. Rav Mendel Merimenov was totally involved and teaching the details of Parshas Haman for 22 years straight. Every Dvar Torah was about Parshas Haman, and he said specifically on the Tuesday of Parshas Beshalach, it is a school of, and perhaps even to say it with Targum, Shnai Mikra V'Echa Targum is a school for Parnasa. Yet we don't find that we say it. Didn't become Minei Chabad, and even though the Alter Rebbe says it in the Shulchan Aruch, even those who do say it, it's interesting that they only start the part of the Parshas Haman where it says that Hashem gives us the man, and not the part where it began, where the Yidden were complaining, asking for food, and that's when the man fall. Only the positive part is mentioning to create this gula or bitachon amun and HaKadosh Baruch Hu.